Hi, I'm Hannah,
And I'm Lydia.
and we are a pair of bookends.
And we were just hoping that we could interrupt this episode to ask you very kindly if you would sign up to our Patreon.
Yes, if you have some spare change rattling around in your pocket, we would so appreciate it if you could go over to patreon.com/a pair of bookends where you can support our work. We have been doing this podcast for nearly 2 years now, and we wanted the opportunity to get to know some of you a little better. And via our Patreon, as well as getting exclusive benefits, you can also have the opportunities to share your own recommendations with us and to chat with us. And it's just a nice place for us to have our own little hub.
For less than a price of a coffee, you can get exclusive Patreon-only benefits, such as our Patreon exclusive book club, where you get to pick the book that we read each month, and also
Early access to all podcast episodes.
and your chance to ask our authors your own questions.
So please do, if you can, sign up to our Patreon via patreon.com/a pair of bookends and support our work. We would appreciate it more than you can imagine, and it helps us hugely to bring you all the extra special stuff.
So come and officially become a bookend.
Now on to today's episode. Welcome to A Pair of Bookends, the book club you can carry anywhere. We are your hosts and hopefully your new bookish pals. I'm Hannah MacDonald.
And I'm Lydia Clare. Hello and welcome to our monthly culture roundup for February, where we chat about all of the things we've enjoyed this month, from TV to podcasts and films to books. We will be deep diving into the best bits of each month. So let's begin.
Lydia, what are you currently reading?
I am currently reading Unearthing by Kaya McClure.
Oh, how funny, because so am I.
But one thing that I will say is I've just finished reading Mrs. Dalloway, which I know you also have just finished
We
reading.
have, yes.
But if you want to listen to us chat all about the book and deep dive into it, and believe you me, we had very different opinions on a lot of
Mm-hmm.
it, then please think about becoming part of our Patreon community and becoming officially a bookend, where you can listen to that exclusive episode.
And you can find that at patreon.com/a pair of bookends.
She's always
Well,
got, she's always got the info.
this was such an unintentional segue, but here we are. What's on your TBR then that's not podcast books?
Oh, so what do I really want to read next? So I am still yet to get to Burnham Wood by Eleanor Catton. And it was Waterstone's book of fiction book of the month for Feb. So I really do want to read it because I've heard so many booksellers wax lyrical about how great that is. I also managed to get my hands on a copy of The Luminaries. And I'm
Ooh.
like, oh, maybe that. So what about you? What's on your TBR?
I've still not read Nuclear Family by Kate Davis, which I spoke about on the last roundup, and I was very kindly sent that, but I haven't read it yet, which is poor from me because it's out now. And I also need to read the Karen Goddard book that I spoke about in the last episode, so I'm really eager to read those. And then I think there's a couple of March releases, but I will save those for the end of the episode.
Oh, very nice.
Mm.
So, Hannah, could you start us off with our first recommendation of things you have enjoyed for this month?
We can't because we must speak about the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction.
What do you
Mean?
Let's cut that bit.
So I feel like we need to read out the list like
Yeah.
we've done on our previous episodes, but this is the inaugural Women's Prize for Non-Fiction, which is
Yeah.
very exciting. So obviously we want to pay tribute to that on this episode.
Very, very first ever Women's Prize for Nonfiction, and it is
It's been a long time coming.
incredible. Okay, so Hannah, let's dive into the list.
So on this year's Women's Prize for Non-Fiction long list, we have Intervals by Marianne Brooker,
All That She Carried by Tia Miles,
Wifedom by Anna Funder,
Shadows at Noon by Joya Chatterjee,
Codependent, Living in the Shadow of AI by Madhumita Murgia,
Eve by Kat Bohannon,
A Flat Place by Noreen Masood,
Some People Need Killing by Patricia Evangelista,
Thunderclap by Laura Cumming,
The Dictionary People by Sarah Ogilvie,
Vulture Capitalism by Grace Blakely,
Young Queens by Leah Redmond Chang.
The Britannias by Alice Albinia.
Matrescence by Lucy Jones.
Doppelganger by Naomi Klein.
And How to Say Babylon by Sophia Sinclair.
Gorgeous. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
Lydia, what are you most excited to read?
Doppelganger by Naomi Klein,
Of course,
obviously.
of
I have
course.
already got myself a copy. It is behind me here. I'll
Love that
just
for
get it
you.
out just for the viewing pleasure of the people listening, obviously. Yeah, it has been on my radar for a while,
Hmm.
and I've heard so much about it, and I just can't wait. And I'm so happy to see it on there as well. Um,
Yes.
so I really, really am excited about that, and I'm also super excited about the fact that Intervals by Marion Brooke has been put on there
I
because
wonder
I think
why.
that's brilliant. Oh yeah, it's just about
It's
grief and
not really
despair.
your cup of tea, that. I don't think you'll like it.
What about you, Hannah? What are you most excited to see?
Well, I'm of course also excited about Doppelganger by Naomi Klein. I was intrigued by Wifedom by Anna
Mhm.
Funda purely because I did like 1984 by George Orwell, and I'm intrigued to see what has been going on behind the scenes and whether that will taint my reading experience of that book and whether it'll
Mm.
change my feelings towards him. So I'm not sure because Wifedom is described as Mrs. Orwell's invisible life. So I'm always intrigued about stories of men that have been successful and the women that have supported them and held them up and how they've been treated. But I don't know what direction this book is going to go in. I am also, thanks to Joseph, who is the host of the Novel Thoughts podcast, he has got me excited for Thunderclap by Laura Cumming, which I wasn't excited about before. But he said that it was. I'm going to read actually the bio of this. The blurb. On the morning of 12th of October 1654, a gunpowder explosion devastated the Dutch city of Delft. The thunderclap was heard over 70 miles away. Among the fatalities was the painter Karel Fabricius, definitely pronounced that wrong, dead at 32, leaving only his haunting masterpiece, The Goldfinch, and barely a dozen known paintings. The explosion that killed him also buried his reputation, along with answers to the mystery of his life and career. What happened to Fabricius before and after this disaster is just one of the discoveries in a book that explores the relationship between art and life, interweaving the lives of Laura Cumming, her Scottish painter father, who also died too young, and the great artists of the Dutch Golden Age. I thought that sounded really interesting, and it wasn't something that I thought would appeal to me before, but yeah, thanks to Joseph, I am officially intrigued by that. I was also interested in, I don't know how to say this word, Matrescence by Lucy Jones, which the subtitle for that is On the Metamorphosis of Pregnancy, Childbirth and Motherhood. And we just know that I love reading about motherhood, so I'm excited for that. And also How to Say Babylon, actually, because I've heard really good things. I don't really know much about it, but I've just heard really good things, and loads of people on Bookstagram have been raving about it, so I'm very
Amazing.
excited about that.
Now, I don't know if it was out of the eligibility window or not,
Mm.
but where the heck is Strong Female Character by
I
Fern
felt the
Hayden?
same. I was expecting it on there as well, but again, I'm the same. I don't know what the eligibility. I don't know
Yeah.
when
Also,
because I feel like it's done so well everywhere, and it's still doing
yeah,
so well.
yeah.
I don't feel like it's been out that long, but I could be wrong. So,
But also, I'm thinking, is because I was also thinking, Where's Normal Women by Philippa Gregory, but
mm,
I'm thinking, are these titles that already have the spotlight on them? And are they looking for giving women that have been overlooked the chance to be on the list as opposed to
I
the names like
mean,
Philippa Gregory? I mean, Philippa Gregory's huge, so she doesn't need to be on that list.
I would disagree on the basis of Barbara Kingsolver winning the fiction prize last year.
Yeah, no, but
So,
I mean, in terms of curating a long list.
yeah, yeah.
Like, have they kind of erred away from the more well-known names so that we could have the people that have generally been passed over?
Yeah, and it's a really great, diverse, long list. So I feel like there's a lot that people will get out of this. It feels very
Yeah.
varied in terms of experiences and stories and storytelling styles, and just the fact that it's non-fiction and there's such an array of it. I just think it's really exciting. It's a really exciting time. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy that they've finally done this, because I know it's something that people have wanted for a long time.
Yeah, and I think also you can sort of see, whilst is a list of very many different perspectives and stories, there is a lot about womanhood, about female identity,
Hmm.
about body that runs throughout quite a lot of these
Mm,
books that you don't normally see in a non-fiction long list,
yeah,
and that I genuinely believe that is because it's the women's
yeah,
non-fiction,
yeah.
and it's like, here are the themes that we don't get to see enough of.
Yeah, I think it's so funny as well, because I saw somebody take a picture at the airport the other day of the non-fiction charts in like a WH Smith at the airport, and it is
Yeah.
horrific, the percentage split of men to women
Yeah, it's
writers.
literally like
It's horrific,
it's about 80/20.
awful. So I'm
Yeah,
hoping that this will elevate more non-fiction and give them the platform that they deserve.
100%. Yeah, hopefully this is the start of having more women non-fiction writers in the
Mm.
mainstream.
I also, moving on from the Women's Prize for Nonfiction, I want to quickly mention, because it's a monthly culture roundup and this is culture, I want to mention the BAFTAs were on last night, and I watched a bit of it, and I wanted to know if you had watched some of it.
I mean, David Tennant is my first love, and
Iconic.
so
Such a good host.
as a fantastic host, I had to watch him.
Yeah. Was it last night or was it the night before?
Night before.
Night before, very good.
Monday.
I had a real panic, and I don't know if you watched this moment live, but when Oppenheimer was announced as best film and they went on the stage, and then the writer was like, "Come on, everyone!" Like, because only the writer, I think she's called Emma Thomas, and obviously the director Christopher Nolan and Cillian Murphy went up on the stage, and she was like beckoning for the rest of them to come along. And then this random guy just kind of went on the stage, but stood with them as though like he belonged there. So at first I thought nothing of it. And then when I was looking at him, I was like, I don't remember you from the film, and you look kind of too young to be a producer, but I'm happy to be wrong. But I've watched too much Trigger Point. I've watched the whole new series of Trigger Point in the last month. And I saw his pocket, and there was a wire coming out of his pocket, and I was like, am I about to watch like Cillian Murphy get blown up live? Like, I cannot. Christopher Nolan, like, what is happening?
You think?
But I've watched too much Trigger Point, so I just couldn't stop staring at this wire. And then he tucked it away, so I was like, it's definitely like a phone charger or something or whatever. But he just tucked it into his trousers, and then nobody made a thing about it. And then I was like, I was going to sleep last night, and then I just suddenly was like, who was that person? Because once it had ended and nobody made a think about it, I'd forgotten about it. But then I was like, no, who is that person? So I Googled it, and it was like this YouTube prankster that had is like known for turning up at these award ceremonies, and that's what he'd done. But that really took me by surprise. Wasn't expecting that. The two speeches that I really enjoyed was Divine Joy Randolph, and I think she won Best Actress for her role in The Holdovers, which I've not watched yet, but I'm hearing so many good things about it. Her speech was just incredible. Like, it really moved me. And also Samantha Morton's
Samantha Morton.
gorgeous speech, all about
Beautiful.
representation. We love to see it. Such a great speech. And
Yeah.
it was just a really nice one for women this year, I think. And also, Emma Stone winning Best Actress has made me think I have to read Poor Things very soon,
Same.
because I've been hearing so much about how good the film is, and I really, really want to watch it, and I really, really want to read the book before I watch it. It was also
One.
really great BAFTAs for adaptions, and I don't know if I've been saying this wrong this whole time. Is it adaptations or is it adaptions? Because I've always said adaptations. Are they both right?
You can say both, I think.
Excellent. But it's been a very good year for that.
Absolutely. And I think that for me, it's always a difficult thing when it's an adaptation, because I feel like a lot of the time with adaptations that are done of books, it's kind of 6 degrees of separation. So
Hmm.
you have the author, then the screenwriter,
Hmm.
then the director, then the actor.
It has to
And
filter through
then
so
the
many people. Yeah.
interpretation of it,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, right, okay, if the feeling of the book manages
Hmm.
to survive that process,
Yes.
that's when you've got a really good movie or film, I think.
Now, on the subject of adaptations, shall we get into our recommendations?
Let's move on.
I think we should start with something that I feel is a joint choice. Am I right in
Yeah,
thinking that?
100%.
What am I talking about, Lydia Claire?
One day.
One Day, the Netflix adaptation of David Nicholls' book. Lydia, give me your thoughts.
Okay, so let me just tell you, I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you back to 16-year-old Lydia. I'm going to take you back to 16-year-old Lydia on a bus to college, finishing off the book one day after having been given it by my teacher, and then walking into college in a state of hysteria, having cried publicly on a bus. Okay. This book has my heart. It is very dear to me. I am very, very picky about the adaptations. Can we
Mm-hmm.
not even speak about the massacre of the film adaptation?
Mm,
I cannot cope with the fact that that was so badly done.
mm-hmm.
So moving on from that.
Which, just to
um
touch on, interestingly, I'm still re-listening to the High Low, and I
mhm,
listened to an episode that they did back in like 2018, and they were
mhm,
talking about one of the topics they were speaking about was women's bias against other women and like internalized
mhm,
misogyny. And there's a clip that they played about Anne Hathaway speaking about this topic, and she's speaking about working on One Day and saying that she's really concerned when she thinks back to that time that she mistreated the director and didn't put her trust in that director because that
mm,
director was a woman. So I do
mm.
wonder if there was something in there going on with the way that that was portrayed on screen, if there was something that went wrong along the way.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
mean, it was a shambles. It was a shambles from start to finish. And let me tell you, do not employ an American actress to play a woman from Yorkshire. And
Mm.
well, from
Sorry,
Leeds.
say that
Um,
again.
do not employ an American actor. And yeah, it just I found it very, very. It was just like, right, okay, I'm dismissing this, and I did
Mm.
dismiss it. That's not to say that I don't love Anne Hathaway. I think she's a brilliant actor.
Me too.
She was just not the right person for the
No.
right role. And so I went into this thinking, oh my gosh, I really, really just hope that this is what I want it to be.
Mm.
And it got off to a shaky start
Oh,
because the casting, I was like, yet again, they have not employed a
a
northern
northern
actor
actor.
for a northern role, right?
Mm.
And I'm like, I don't want to listen to someone drop their T's.
Yeah.
It just drives me mad. But I was like, right, okay. And then I gave it 5 minutes. And then I woke up 3 days later crying. And it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So it did
Did the
itself
job.
proud. It really did. And Amika Mob is brilliant.
Oh my God, incredible.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say.
I have no notes on the casting
No notes.
process, and I feel the same about like, can we employ more northern actors, especially when
Mm.
there's northern roles for them. Like, for the
Yeah.
love of God, there's not enough of us represented on screen. So when there's
Yeah.
actually northern character, let's give us that role. Do you know
And
what I mean?
what I couldn't understand was why were her parents Mancunian, but she was allegedly from Leeds. Like it was like we'll just have generic northern accents for these
Yeah.
three people, and it's like yeah, but they're from different regions. So
Mm,
just like, can you explain that,
yeah.
please?
The
But anyway,
chemistry between Leah Woodall and Amber Commod, gorgeous. But I think his name is Johnny Weldon that played Ian. I thought their scenes together were so good. One of my favourite episodes was between, and I feel like I don't know how much we want to tread around spoilers here, so skip ahead if you've not watched it all yet. But
yeah, just yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it's episode 7 where, and I'm going to speak around it so not too much is given away, but he's let himself back into her flat, back
mm,
into their flat, and she finds him there and she's like, why are you here? So
mhm,
this is between Em and Ian, and she like loses her head and he loses his head, and it's like the whole like desperation of a breakup, and we are showing the worst sides of ourselves, but we feel so desperate in that moment that only the worst side of ourselves is going to come up. And it's like it reminded me of why I loved the dialogue in Marriage Story so much.
yes, yes,
It was very much that like fraught distress, desperation, all coming to the surface, and it was so explosive and just brilliant. So I absolutely fucking adored that episode. For me, everyone's been raving about the ending. For me, episodes 11 and 12 were better than 13 and 14 for me. So that's probably a controversial opinion, but I really enjoyed those. The scene where he goes to Paris thinking it's going to
Mm,
be one thing and then it being something else. That 10 minutes of TV destroyed me. I thought it was
yeah,
so freaking good, so well performed, so well written. It was just gorgeous. And then her coming back in and saying, "You're fake tonsillitis." And I'm not going to say anything else on that, but those two episodes were my favourite episodes of the whole thing. I thought so beautiful. And also the episode with Dex with his mum and his dad drives him to the train station and he says, I carried her to bed, I put her to sleep. And his dad goes, "So?" That
yeah,
whole argument between, oh my gosh, just gorgeous, and him having a
yeah.
complete meltdown at the payphone at the station,
Mm,
just like gorgeous. So for me, the ending, I mean, I've only read the book once, and I obviously want to reread this book, but I've only read it once. I think I read it either last year or the year before. I feel like it would have been 2 years ago that I read it, I think. No, it would have been 2 years ago because I read it for
yeah, I
Pandora
remember you
Sykes
reading it.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I read it for that. And like I feel like there's like I want to remember like what was shown on screen in this adaptation and what wasn't. But I thought it was a really good adaptation. I thought the casting was brilliant. The actress that plays Tilly, actress, I don't like saying that word, actor that plays Tilly, stunning. Loved her. I thought she was so great, and I loved Ian as well. I just thought, yeah, great all round.
I can never say his second name. What is it? McInnery. He's fantastic in it, and he is quietly brilliant and so good in every single scene. Because
Mm,
what he does is he kind of just waits in all of the scenes. He just waits for these little moments, and he has these little pockets of just
mm,
brilliance. And it's
yeah.
like when you're given not a lot to work with,
Mm-hmm.
you can either chew the scenery or you can be fantastic, and
Yeah.
he is incredible. Like,
Mm,
so phenomenal in it. I love the scenes, like you said, that scene in the car when he's driving him back and he's just on the edge of his tether,
yeah. Yeah.
and you're like, he's got and he just explodes.
Yeah.
But it's his son, so he can't it's like he can't direct that energy.
Yeah.
It's just oh, it's amazing. It is
Incredible. Okay, Lydia, what is we loved it, but we can't talk about it any more than we already have
we
because if you've
can't.
not watched it, you have to go and watch it and we can't give anything away. So Lydia, what is your next recommendation for me?
So my next recommendation is a book that I read this month, and it is called In Ascension by Martin McGuinness.
Let's talk
Um,
about that.
it is a beautiful science fiction novel, and it is a gorgeous look at family and grief, and it's all grounded in very real, very relevant topics, but it's just so dynamic. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so phenomenal. I've got one quote from it that I
Oh
have to read.
gorgeous, let's have it.
So it's just so brilliant. He writes with such a beautiful style. I mean, he writes from a woman's perspective in a very, very convincing way. And this is them talking about grief. Everyone should be acknowledged. Everyone should be missed when they are not right there with you because of what they carry. This very distinct way they have of bearing themselves that is like no one else, and that is built by everything they have done and everything they have seen.
Gorgeous.
And it's about one woman's life as she grapples within a mother who is starting to deteriorate mentally
Mm-hmm.
in old age, her sister who's been left behind to deal with that while she goes off and follows a career path that takes her away from home and takes her away from basically reality
Mm-hmm.
in every sense of the word. So she has to go on a space exploration mission, but that's all just metaphor for the fact that she's not at home with the
Right.
people that she'd be with. And the further away she gets physically, the further away she gets emotionally,
Mm.
and the distance is vast. And the last chapter is worth the whole book alone. It's
Love that.
just unbelievable.
Do
It's
you
the
think I'll
same.
enjoy it?
I think you will love it. It's about sister dynamics. It's about a mother-daughter relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Don't I think what I want to say to people, and what I would say to you, Hannah, because I know you're not a science fiction
Mm-hmm.
fan,
That's what
right?
worries me.
Is it's just her job.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a job. She just
Yeah.
happens to have a job that means that she has to go to space, right?
Yeah.
But that is it.
Yeah.
The rest of the book is so grounded in reality, is so grounded in the minutiae of family,
Mhm.
of grief, of betrayal, of trust, of, sisterly affection
Mhm.
and sisterly, hate,
Yeah.
be there and distrust. All of that is there. And it is so well written.
Mm.
It's just incredible, and the longer I have away from it, the more I think it's just a truly fantastic piece of science fiction. It's just
Gorgeous.
incredible. So I cannot stop banging on about it. So, yeah, if you've not got In Ascension on your TBR, you
Mhm.
have now.
Gorgeous. I'm excited to read it now. I want to be
Yes,
nicking that
you
off
have
you
to.
very quickly.
I will be giving it to you, don't you worry.
Thank you very much.
So Hannah, what have you been enjoying this month?
So, this month has been quite a difficult month personally. My granddad is very poorly in hospital, so I've not had much brain space to be consuming lots of different things. So, it's been a lot about trying to find things that make me happy, because there's been a lot of times just feeling sad, and yeah, I just need joy. I just need little pockets of joy in the moments that I'm not, feeling sad. And there's been a lot of time in my spare time spent sat by his bedside at the hospital. So I needed good things, and Beyoncé delivered for me this month.
Oh my god, no
Beyoncé
way!
delivered. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not a niche recommendation, but it's the song Texas Hold'em. Oh, fuck off.
I'm
Well,
just
let's
saying,
talk
guys,
about it.
so
So it's a
I've
joint
just held up
recommendation.
I've just held up my notes, and recommendation number 4 is Texas Hold'em by Beyoncé.
Oh my god, it is such a bop. And this was announced at the Super Bowl. I love Beyonce. I'm a huge fan of hers. So I was so excited when it was new music, and it was country. So I was like, don't really listen to country. Am I gonna like this? Oh my god, her voice with country music works perfectly.
It's my new hyperfixation song. So anyone that knows me knows that if I like a song or like anything,
Hmm.
I mean, this might tell you a lot about my personality. But I get hyperfixated on it. I have listened to that song about 40 times
Yeah,
today
you and me
on
both.
repeat, and I can't stop it.
I love it so
So
much.
good.
It's such a bop. And I also want to recommend alongside that is the TikTok at 2 Gay Mats reviewing it, because they are just, it brings me so much joy to watch them. And they review different songs, and you have to watch it, Lydia. You're gonna love it so much,
I
and I need to know
will.
what you think.
Send it to me.
But
Send
they
it to
are
me.
listening to it for the first time, and they're really having a little bop to themselves, and then picking up different lyrics and being like, "Oh my god, this is gorgeous." One of the things that they said that really stuck with me, and I was like, that is it, that's what makes this song so gorgeous, is it's so fun, but it's also a really romantic song. And I
Mm.
was like, that is it, just gorgeous. No notes, Beyonce, no notes.
Yeah, I absolutely love it, and I think that it's Beyoncé back to her best. I personally, don't come at me. I thought her last album was a bit meh. I
I
wasn't
didn't
a
love all
huge
the
fan.
songs on it, but I liked some of them, but not all of them. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
feel
just
like this
think
is back to,
this is back to, when we had Beyoncé, the album.
yes, yes.
I think people are gonna be doing the dance. I think people
Mm-hmm.
are gonna be obsessed with the song like I am, and I think that I really want an album that I can listen to on repeat, learn all the words, learn all the songs,
Mm-hmm.
make up dances with my sisters, do all of that stuff and be
Yeah,
like, this is you want that, and I think that this hopefully is going to be the album.
you can't listen to the song and be sad, you
I think
can't.
it's gonna be the album of the summer. I think we're still
Has
gonna
to
be
be.
singing these songs come September,
Yeah,
October time. I think we're still gonna be singing these songs,
yeah.
and I'm excited about it, and I think it's so nice to see new music coming from her that I
100%.
think I'm gonna enjoy. So, yeah,
100%.
so it was also my
Gorgeous.
recommendation.
Love that. Love that for us. What's next up for you, Lid?
Next up for me is a booktuber that I
Mm,
absolutely love, and Hannah, you will know this, we've met him. And that is at Savage Reads.
love him.
So Simon Savage, I have to shout out about him today because I have been a long watcher of his booktube channel.
Hmm.
He's also a presenter on the Sky Arts Book Club. He does great in-person author interviews with especially with like Waterstones and bookshops, independent
Mm-hmm.
bookshops as well. He's a massive advocate for independent bookshops. He's a massive advocate for reading by whim, for not reading for content. And the content that he does create is always informative, imaginative, and I just absolutely love his videos. They are
Mm-hmm.
great comfort videos if you want to chuck them on. He does so much with his mum as well, with
Mm.
Louise from, and she's in Louise Savage Muses. She has her own channel, and they've just got the Women's Prize non-fiction long list through, and they've been doing these videos about it, and it just gets you in the mood to love books,
Love
love
that.
reading, and he's so brilliant. And when I say that he is in person so just humble and lovely, he's just brilliant, and I've really enjoyed watching all of his content, and I can't wait to see what he's got in store for the next
Mm-hmm.
year, because everything he creates is just so much about the love of books,
Mm.
that if you are a fan of books and you want to dive more into the booktube stuff, at Savage Reads, follow him on Instagram, follow him on YouTube, because it's just absolute catnip.
We love him. Love
We
him.
love him. How about you, Hannah?
So, next up for me is the Booker Prize podcast, the episode Why Sally Rooney's Normal People is More Than Just a Love Story. And the hosts of this was Joe Hamya and James Walton. And I thought they did such a great job of exploring Sally Rooney's back catalogue, talking about how she writes, the themes that she explores that come up across the board, the way she writes characters, her storytelling style. I mean, I absolutely adore Sally Rooney. I'm wearing normal people jumper today. That wasn't actually on purpose. I've just realised that. Um, I love her so much, and I really love the way that she writes and the way that she writes characters. And I think, you know, there is so much that you can get from her book. It's so important politically reading her book. You know, there's so many important political themes that she explores, and there's so many important things that she says about like modern society and like who we are as people. And I
Mhm.
just think there's something in there for everybody. But this episode was so great. I love Normal People. I thought the TV adaptation of Normal People is one of the best adaptations I've seen ever. But just speaking about that book, because I've spent so long thinking about the adaptation of it, going back and thinking about the book itself was so great. And I think it was the same as, you know, we've just recorded our book club episode on Mrs. Dalloway, and talking through it makes you think of so many more things about the book that you don't think when you're reading it. And that's what that episode gave to me, and just filled me with this whole whole new excitement and love for her, even though that excitement and love is already there. It just gave me so much more to think about. And I think Joe Hamya in particular is clearly so passionate about Sally Rooney. I think she wrote her dissertation on something to do with Sally Rooney, and she was a bookseller at the time when Normal People came out, so she saw like the journey of it and how big it went. And I think that was just so incredible to listen to and actually think like how young Sally Rooney was when she actually started writing, and how like prolific she's become. She's like easily going to be one of the greatest writers of our generation. She is. There's so many endorsements that will say like the next Sally Rooney, and for me, I'd feel like that's a fucking compliment and a half. But I understand why it annoys people. But that episode was such a great listen, and I can't recommend it enough.
I have listened to that episode
Yay!
myself, and I have to say it was incredible. It
Corker.
immediately made me want to run and reread the book.
Yeah.
The way that Joe talks about, I think she said she's read it like 12 times or something
Yes, she
ridiculous.
did. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's read it like 12 times, and every time she's cried at different bits.
Yeah.
A and, and she's like, part of it is just, she's going through a breakup herself, so she
Mhm.
cries at, certain bits, and then, as she's now engaged, so she feels differently about their
Yes.
relationship, and I thought, that is the how a book stands the test of
A
time. It's the
hundred
same with
percent.
One Day by David Nichols. I know that, I think it's Pandora, isn't it? Pandora Sykes, who's read One Day
Yeah.
about 40 billion times,
Yeah.
a comfort read. These books particularly about relationships, and pivotal relationships that tend to last a long time,
Mhm.
over a course of either, your coming of age time or your entire life.
Mhm.
They can keep giving you stuff no matter how old you get.
Yeah.
you get something different from it every time you read it.
Mhm.
I'm not a huge rereader. I do reread some things, but on my list to reread this year are Normal People and One Day, and
Love that.
because of that specific reason. And yeah, and that podcast, it's a phenomenal podcast,
Mhm.
with brilliant presenters, and yeah, and it's a great deep dive into a fantastic book.
100%. 100%. Lydia, what is your next recommendation? Is this your
Okay,
last
so
one?
it is my last
Ooh,
one since you stole mine, Beyoncé.
so
Um,
sorry.
but yes, no, it is a film.
Ooh.
So it is the film Nyad, and it's about swimmer Diana Nyad's attempt to swim the Straits of Florida.
Mhm.
And it is based on her book Find a Way, and it is directed. I want to get this right. It's directed by Elizabeth Chai Varsahelier and Jimmy Chin. It stars Jodie Foster, Annette Bening, and Risa Fans, and it is cracking.
Oh.
I have loved it. I can tell it's going to be a film I'm going to rewatch
Mhm.
immediately, and it's just all about celebrating eccentricity. Diana Nyad is an eccentric.
Mhm.
She's a bit bonkers. I mean, you'd have to be bonkers anyway to swim across the Straits of Florida. I mean, it's just absolutely bonkers. But they celebrate her in all of her
Mm.
weirdness. It also shines a complete light on the fact that someone can be selfish
Yeah.
and a little bit egotistical and
Mhm.
all of these things, but still lovable and entertaining and fantastic and just beautiful and loved by the people around her. It's also a fantastic, fantastic portrayal of her kind of constant companion by Jodie Foster, who just shines throughout every scene. I would love it to sweep the Oscars because
Gorgeous.
it's just phenomenal, and it's about women and about the perseverance of spirit
Mhm.
and about older women and shining a light on them for once, and it's just phenomenal. It's brilliantly shot, brilliantly directed, and I can't stop banging on about how great it is. So
Is
yeah,
that on Netflix?
it's on Netflix. Yeah, yeah,
You're a
and it's
Netflix
just
queen at the moment.
I know,
You're getting
right?
through it all. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm
But
impressed.
yeah, no, it's incredible. So yeah, Jodie Foster is just phenomenal in it, and
Mm.
she deserves an Oscar for
I'm
the
excited
best
to watch
supporting
this
role.
now.
Yeah,
It wasn't on my
you've got
radar,
to,
but yeah, I'm excited. You've got me excited for it.
yeah, it's brilliant.
Mm.
So are we on your last one now, Hannah?
We are indeed.
Go on.
My last recommendation is All of Us Strangers because I said I was going to watch that this month and I have. And I just think that Andrew Scott, fucking hell, shines so much in this film. And the funny thing is that like I am such a big fan, arguably a bigger fan of Paul Mescal than I am of Andrew Scott.
Mm,
I adore Andrew Scott, but I'm a bigger fan of Paul Mescal. But Andrew Scott really shines in this film. Like his performance is just like staggering. It's so
mhm,
unbelievably beautiful. And you can so tell that he's had the lived experience of that character, a similar lived experience as the character he plays. And there is this moment. So there's so much in the film, and I have to be so careful about the way I speak about it because I want people to
and please
enjoy
don't
this.
spoil it 'cause
I
I haven't
want
seen
people
it.
to enjoy this for themselves. Obviously, it's an adaptation. I think the book is very different from the film. I think there's a lot of different choices that have been made. But I know it's a very common thing in contemporary Japanese fiction, so I've been told, that like ghosts and the culture around ghosts and the way we speak to our loved ones that have passed, it's a very like common thing in Japanese culture. So it's interesting that they haven't gone with Japanese actors for this, and it's very different. It's the two Irish actors, but then Paul Mescal has this northern accent, which I wasn't expecting, so that was random. But anyway, it explores a lot of things about like grief and about the kind of tug of war you have with yourself and how you feel like you wish you had moments with a person and kind of coming to terms with that and sort of healing after losing a loved one. And there's things about sexuality in there and how it feels for queer people to live with that part of their identity, and how the people around them and the way that they're treated by the people around them, how that changes the way they feel about themselves, and all those kind of
Mhm.
things. It brought up a lot of interesting kind of thoughts and conversations around that. And I feel like that so many people are going to get so many different things from this film. The cast are just like, they completely excel in this. There's a particular scene between Jamie Bell and Andrew Scott that had me blubbing like an absolute baby. Like, it was just beautiful. But I really want you to watch this so we can chat about it. So I'm not going to give anything else away. But it was such a gorgeous film, and definitely didn't take the direction that I was expecting from the trailer. It was like totally different to what I expected, but it was really, really beautiful. And I cried a lot. So God knows how you'll be.
Okay, I suspect that it's going to be a difficult one for me to watch.
Yeah,
With my past experiences of grief and unresolved grief, I think
yeah,
sometimes I think sometimes you have to be wary when you approach things like that. I mean, I know that a lot of times it can catch you off guard,
yeah.
and I think it's good to know going in that it's going to be about that. But I know that I'm going to love it. I mean, Andrew Scott is he's
Phenomenal.
just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I first watched Andrew Scott in Sherlock, and there is a line that where he says, "It is my only weakness," that I think is one of the best delivered lines in television history. So
Gorgeous.
I adore him and everything he does.
Love that. This is an Andrew Scott stan account now. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stan podcast. So that is all of our recommendations, I believe.
It is,
Another
yeah.
month.
One highlight from this month that I think we both absolutely loved was going to meet Maddie Gray in real life.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we went to Waterstones Deansgate in Manchester,
Yeah.
and we listened to her chat about Green Dot,
Yeah.
and that was an absolutely brilliant evening and
Mm-hmm.
brilliantly hosted by Martha, friend of the
Martha. Yes.
pod.
We love you, Martha. That is no surprise to you by now.
Um, and yeah, and we had a brilliant night, a gorgeous night, and Maddie is just the most gorgeous and talented human being.
Totally.
Um, so I think I can speak on behalf of us both when I say that that was a real big highlight from the past.
100%. 100%. What are you excited for in the upcoming month, Lydia?
The Oscars,
Yes. When is
and
that?
it is 10th of March.
Oh my gosh.
I'm super excited. I've booked it off work.
Of course, I'd expect nothing
And
less.
yeah, and as usual, we'll be gathering with my nearest and dearest well into the wee hours of the morning to watch it and pretend we are on the red carpet
Excellent.
and cry, laugh, and celebrate alongside all of the celebrities because we cannot wait. But yes, I really want to see Nyad win some, and I want to see. I would have loved to have seen Greta Gerwig win something, and I think it's an absolute travesty that she's not been nominated. Let me just
Hmm.
now.
Very true.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the Oscars. I think that's the thing that's most on my radar.
Gorgeous.
How about you?
I am excited to watch Alice and Jack, a new Channel 4 drama that I've been seeing loads about. I think I am definitely the target audience for that series. It's got some phenomenal actors in it, and it just looks like a really beautiful, heartbreaking series, and I'm so ready for it. I've been desperate to watch that. There's 3 books that I want to give a shout out to, all coming out in March, which I'm very excited about. One is may have been given to me by somebody who I'm not going to mention, but this person managed to nab me a proof of, I don't know how to say this word, prima facie. Is that how you say it? Prima
Yeah, I think
facie?
so. Oh,
Okay.
I'd say prima facie,
Prima facie.
but
So
that's my northern accent.
this is by Susie Miller, who wrote the smash hit play, which was the one woman show by Jodie Comer, which I regrettably did not get to see, so that was devastating. But I'm excited to read the book, and I'm very intrigued about. I don't think we get many adaptations like that at all, where it goes from the stage to the book.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
very intrigued by that choice, but I'm really excited to read that. I was sent by Borough Press Annie Bot by Sierra Gray. I should have said sorry. Prima Facie is published by Hutchinson Heinemann, and it is out on the 14th of March. Annie Bot, which was sent to me via my Bookstagram account, it is out on the 14th of March also. And it's described as a literary debut from a stunning new voice. This is a story about womanhood and identity, power and abuse, and the future of AI. And I think there's another book coming out this year that's slightly similar to that. That's Hey Zoe by Sarah Crossan, which I'm very excited for. So I'm really intrigued to see how these different writers are going to explore AI. And I think we're going to see a lot more fiction around that surfacing, because a lot of writers are concerned about the rise in AI and how that's being utilized in terms of publishing and writers. And yeah, it's a really interesting topic. So I'm excited for that. And
Yeah, I've seen
also,
sorry,
yeah.
I've seen In the Blink of an Eye I read last month by Joe Callahan, and that's all about AI and an
Mm,
AI detective. And it's, yeah, I think it's definitely gonna be a very prominent topic coming up
100%.
in publishing.
And the last book that I wanted to mention is out on the 21st of March, and we were very kindly sent this by Verve. Ah! And I've just seen that they've given us a little bookmark as well, so that is very cute.
I love that little moment of realization that you've got a bookmark.
Gorgeous. Oh, it slipped out. This is Paper Names by Susie Lowe. I think that's how you say their name. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced that. But I'm going to quickly read the blurb of that. Outside a New York apartment building, an attempted mugging alters the lives of three people. Tony, a Chinese-born engineer turned Manhattan doorman who immigrated to the United States to give his family a better life. His daughter Tammy, who grapples with the expectations surrounding a first-generation American as she grows into an ambitious young woman, and Oliver, a charming white lawyer with a dark family secret who is continuously propelled towards Tammy and Tony, whether by fate or his choices. Set in New York and China over 3 decades, Paper Names explores what it means to be American from 3 different perspectives. As Tony, Tammy, and Oliver each strive for their own American dream and make sacrifices to attain it, every joyous and heartbreaking twist in their stories begs the question, was it all worth it?
Ooh,
Yeah.
sounds absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait to read that.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that. So thank you to Verve for sending us a copy of that. We're very excited to read it, and we can't wait to shout about it. So,
We really can't.
mm,
And in bookish event news, we will be going to see friend of the pod and former guest Bobby Palmer
yes,
at Manchester Deansgate again,
yes,
to hear him talk about his new novel, which I'm very excited to read.
Small Hours, which is out in March.
Yeah,
So is that the 14th as well? I believe that. I could be wrong
I
now. I'm
think
willing to be wrong.
everything's coming out mid-March.
Mid
Everything.
March. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited to read that because we both loved Isaac and the Egg. So,
Honestly, I love Isaac and Nyad. At my bookshop, we have a little stand where we have our bookseller recommendations, and
mm,
currently, Isaac and the Egg is on there next to The Wager by David Gran.
as it should be.
It's great.
This was so fun, and we hope you
Yeah,
enjoyed our second episode in our monthly culture roundup. If you want extra content from us, please do head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/a pair of bookends, where you will find the Mrs. Dalloway episode that we have been speaking about. If you would like to follow us anywhere else, you can do so at a pair of bookends pod on Instagram, where you will see lots of recommendations from us, and at a pair of bookends on Twitter and TikTok. And yeah, we can't wait to come back in a month's time and see what we've been enjoying then.
amazing. It's been a pleasure.
It
Now I'm gonna
has.
go and hit play on Beyonce.
Gorgeous, as you should. Goodbye.
Bye.